Rachel, this table is for family. Go find a spot outside. My cousin laughed. Then the waiter dropped a $2,200 bill in front of me. I took a sip of coffee and pushed it back. Rachel, the table is for family. Go find a spot outside. My cousin laughed. Then the waiter dropped a $2,200 bill in front of me. I took a slow sip of coffee and pushed it back. I stood at the entrance of Belmont's, gripping my leather clutch tighter. Through the amber glow of vintage chandeliers, I saw them, my family laughing, glasses raised in some private celebration. The maitre d' smiled at me with rehearsed politeness. Your name, miss? Before I could answer, my mother's voice cut through the dining room. Oh, there she is finally. Heads turned. Curious glances weighed on me as I stepped forward, my heels clicking against the marble floor. My black dress, simple yet tailored, whispered success rather than shouting it. They'd taken the restaurant's best table, the one with the downtown skyline view I used to dream of. My mother, cousin Lucas, his wife Brittany. The ruby pendant at my mother's throat caught the light, a gift from my father before cancer took him in my sophomore year. I approached, stopping short. There was no chair for me. Lucas lounged comfortably, one arm draped over his chair, a glass of expensive amber liquid in the other. His smirk landed before his words. This table is for family, he said, not bothering to lower his voice. Go find a seat outside. At the next table, a couple paused mid-conversation, their discomfort thick in the air. Don't take it the wrong way, Rachel, Brittany chimed in, sugar-coated venom laced in her voice. But we all knew the truth. Lucas wasn't joking. I said nothing, my face betraying nothing, as I pulled a chair from a nearby table. The screech of its legs against the floor cut through the soft piano music. My mother didn't meet my eyes. Helen Harrington, once the backbone of our family, now just another vertebra bent under Lucas's posturing. She smoothed non-existent wrinkles in her napkin. You're late, she finally said, as if my arrival 15 minutes early somehow disrupted their decades-long narrative. I settled into my mismatched chair. Traffic, I lied. The truth? I'd sat in my car for 20 minutes debating whether to come. No strategic advantage at Oliver's. As I watched them clink glasses, a memory surfaced sharp and unwelcome. 4 years earlier, my childhood bedroom stripped to bare walls. Cardboard boxes stacked by the door. This business idea of yours is just another phase, my father had said, leaning against the doorframe. Not angry, worse. Dismissive. You'll be back when reality sets in. That day, I moved into an apartment so small. My kitchen table doubled as my office. I worked 18-hour days, lived off microwaved ramen, and built my company client by client. That first Christmas I called home. Laughter and clinking glasses filled the background as my mother explained they were having a small gathering. One I wasn't invited to. When Meridian Corp signed my first 6-figure contract, I wanted to call them. Instead, I opened a bottle of champagne with my 2 employees and toasted to those who believe in themselves when no one else will. Earth to Rachel. Lucas snapped his fingers in front of my face. I blinked, straightening. Yes. We were talking about street barts, Brittany said, twisting her diamond bracelet. Lucas and I went in January. The Rothschilds were actually staying at our resort. 3 days ago, my mother's desperate call had broken our usual light check-ins. It's been so long, sweetie. Everyone misses you. That tone. The one that spoke louder in silence than words. And yet here they were, Lucas flashing his new Rolex, Brittany flaunting her designer bag. Their conversation spun between luxury vacations and big purchases with the frantic energy of performers struggling to remember their lines. I watched. Listen. The waiter brought coffee. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug, piecing together the real reason I was here. You know what? I'm splurging tonight, Lucas announced, tapping the menu. The Wagyu ribeye. And let's do the 2015 Bordeaux. Life's too short for cheap food, Brittany cooed. Lobster for me. And maybe we should start with champagne. It's a special occasion. We should treat ourselves. One by one, they ordered the most expensive items, exchanging subtle glances when they thought I wasn't looking. My mother fidgeted with her napkin, complicit but uncomfortable. I hid my smirk behind my coffee cup. I knew exactly why I was here. 2 hours. 2 hours of carefully curated conversation that flowed around me like water around a stone. Each time I spoke, Lucas's voice conveniently rose, drowning me out. Nobody cares about work talk at dinner, he dismissed when I mentioned my company's European expansion. His hand waved the subject away. We're here to catch up on family stuff. Family stuff. As if I weren't family. As if my life's work meant nothing. The waiter refilled my water for the 4th time. I still hadn't touched my food. I was too busy observing, learning. You look good for someone who works all the time, Brittany mused, scanning my face. Do you ever actually leave that office? Before I could answer, she launched into her spa weekend recap. Rejuvenation. Self-care, she said, the words falling from her lips like rehearsed dialogue. My mother reached for my wrist. Let's all just enjoy being together, she said, her smile strained. It's been too long. Whose fault is that? I almost asked. Instead, I nodded, cutting into my untouched salmon. Oh, Lucas, tell Rachel about that Italian place we tried last month, my mother said suddenly. The one with the Venetian glass chandeliers? Last month. A brief, awkward silence settled over the table. We try to do this monthly, Brittany explained, examining her manicure. Family dinner. It's tradition. A tradition I was just now hearing about. Lucas cleared his throat. Well, you're always so busy with your little company and all. The diminutive stung. Exactly as intended. I straightened slightly. Not too busy for family. If invited. My mother's eyes darted between us. More wine, anyone? Lucas seized the opening. Speaking of business, he said, leaning forward, Rolex catching the light. The market's been brutal. 3 deals fell through last week. He glanced at me. Not everyone's swimming in success. I recognized the play, the setup, the lavish orders, the sob story, the pointed references to my wealth. They hadn't invited me to dinner. They'd invited my wallet. The waiter returned, check in hand. Lucas nodded slightly. The bill landed in front of me with a soft thud. Silence. Expectant. Lucas leaned back, triumphant. Thanks for dinner, Rachel. You don't mind, right? We figured. Since you're doing so well. My phone buzzed. Meeting confirmed. Singapore contract locked in. Celebrating at the office whenever you can make it, Diane. Asterisk asterisk, a picture formed. Diane, who stayed until 3 a.m. helping me finish our first proposal. Miguel, who brought me soup when I worked through a fever. Sarah, who left her corner office to believe in my vision. My chosen family. I picked up the check, examined it. The table exhaled in relief. My mother relaxed. Lucas smirked. I set the bill in front of him. I'm not your personal ATM. Silence. Absolute. Lucas flushed. Brittany's mouth opened, no words came. Rachel, honey, my mother tried, her tone placating. You can help a little, can't you? We're family. I met her eyes. Yes, we are. My voice was calm, which is why I deserve the same respect you give everyone else at this table. Lucas's hands trembled. The facade cracked. And I was done playing their game. That realization surges up his arms as the truth of my refusal sinks in. $2000 of carefully nurtured entitlement crashing against the seawall of my quiet dignity. I stand, gathering my purse not in anger or haste but with the measured grace of a woman reclaiming her worth, one boundary at a time. Have you ever had to stand up to family who try to take advantage of your success? What did you say to set your limits? I wonder aloud, my eyes fixed on the imposing, leather-bound bill between us. A $2,200 dinner tab. Lucas's gaze shifts from smug satisfaction to utter disbelief as I make no move toward my purse. The color rises from his collar, morphing into an angry crimson. You can't be serious, he snaps, his voice gathering the attention of nearby tables. You make more than all of us combined. I sip my coffee, its bitter warmth a quiet counterpoint to his outburst. That's irrelevant to who ordered what, I reply. Brittany leans forward, her tone sugary but with a biting edge. We wouldn't have ordered all this if we knew you'd be so petty about it. Her diamond bracelet glints as she gestures toward the untouched dessert plates and half-empty wine bottles. My mother reaches for my arm, her fingers trembling slightly. Maybe we can split it, she suggests softly. You take half and we'll cover the rest. Before we can continue, the restaurant manager appears with a polite but tight smile. Is everything all right here? He asks, glancing between our tense faces and the untouched bill. His concern is professional, yet his eyes betray discomfort. Emotions swirl. A mix of anger, disappointment, and a strange grief for the family that might have been. We had been planning this dinner for weeks. Finally, Lucas admits in a low, harsh whisper. You never return Mom's calls. You're too busy for family gatherings. What was I supposed to do? Ask. I say simply. You never really invite me. I wasn't included at the last 3 Christmases, at Dad's memorial, at your housewarming. My presence was an afterthought while everyone else came with partners. My mother dabs at her eyes with a napkin. We just assumed you wouldn't mind helping out. Her whisper is heavy with tears. Things have been so difficult. I didn't know how else to ask. Difficult. I press quietly, already expecting the answer. Lucas and Brittany exchange glances. I lost my job 3 months ago, Lucas confesses, staring blankly at his plate. The real estate market tanked and our firm downsized. I've been searching everywhere. Brittany adds in a barely audible tone, but we have appearances to maintain. I glance at Lucas's new Rolex, at the vacation photos from Europe that Brittany posted last month, and the designer purse casually placed on an empty chair. Their facade of success, supported by maxed-out credit cards, is crystal clear. I'm the designated life raft. I remember winning first place in the science fair with a solar energy project I built, while my parents celebrated Lucas barely passing algebra. At graduation, my valedictory speech got little more than polite applause, while my cousin's acceptance to a state college was celebrated. Then, when I started my business, family dinners turned into silent reminders of my absence at events meant to celebrate my success. I tap the bill with one finger. Interesting timing, I murmur as the manager returns, his expression still firm. I apologize for the interruption, but we have other guests waiting. We need to resolve this bill soon, he announces with an unyielding politeness. Lucas's frustration spills over. Fine, you've made your point. Just pay half, he orders. Brittany frantically taps her phone, messaging friends for emergency loans. Her increasingly panicked face reveals that no one is willing to help. Lucas pulls out his wallet and frantically flips through it. A membership card, a driver's license, a single $20 bill. My mother opens her purse, her hands trembling as she searches for a credit card. Though everyone already knows hers is maxed out. The manager shifts his weight, reiterating, "We need to resolve this bill now, please." My mother produces a rarely used checkbook. Its cover is pristine. "Rachel, please, just this once," she pleads softly. I think of all those just this once moments that slowly eroded my boundaries. "You ordered it, you pay for it," I say, meeting each of their eyes. "I'm only responsible for my coffee." I place a $10 bill on the table. $4 for my coffee, $6 for the server who must witness this family drama. Lucas grips the table. "You'd really let your own mother be humiliated in public?" he shouts. "No," I answer sharply. "I'd let adults face the consequences of their choices. What is the price of self-respect?" I look at the $2,200 bill, and the family who schemed for weeks to manipulate me into paying it. I already know my answer. "You regret embarrassing us like this?" Lucas hisses, leaning close so that I can smell the expensive bourbon on his breath. His voice is low, unheard by nearby diners, but loud enough for everyone at our table. The veneer of family warmth has vanished like morning dew under a harsh sun. Brittany's eyes fill with perfectly timed tears as they trace down her cheeks, yet her mascara remains undisturbed. "I can't believe you do this to your own family," she stammers, her voice catching on the word family. "After everything we've done for you," my mother murmurs, twisting her ruby pendant with each nervous movement, sending small red reflections dancing across the crisp white tablecloth. "Rachel, please," she pleads, her voice lacking conviction. "After everything we've done for you." Her words hang in the air, a question without a mark. I search my memory for what they've really done for me. Beyond their conditional love and manipulative behavior, the unified front they presented minutes ago begins to crack under its own weight. Lucas theatrically pulls out his wallet and slaps down a credit card. The manager runs it through the machine and returns with a tight smile. "I'm sorry, sir. This card has been declined." Lucas's face flushes. He produces another card, then another. Each time, the manager gives the same apologetic look. Brittany digs through her designer purse, her fingers trembling as she hands over her own card. "I'm sorry, ma'am." I think, watching this performance as my coffee grows cold in my hands. The weight of their expectations, this trap they set, lies heavily upon me. I place a $5 bill beside my untouched coffee cup, and add another $20 plus a tip for our server. 3 pairs of eyes turn toward me, each filled with a different shade of desperation. Lucas opens his mouth, but I meet his gaze with steady calm, and his words wither on his lips. "I'm just letting everyone take responsibility for their own choices," I say, looking each family member in the eye. "We all make decisions and live with the consequences." I gather my purse and stand, my shoulders suddenly relax from the tension that had weighed on me since I entered Belmont's. The manager clears his throat again. "Perhaps there's someone else you could call for assistance with the bill?" Lucas's nostrils flare as he pulls out his phone and steps away, his back rigid as he makes a call that seems to hurt him more than any physical blow could. Brittany's fingers fly to her wrist as she unclasps her tennis bracelet and removes her earrings, piling her jewelry on the table as if preparing for a pawn shop visit. My mother rises, following me as I step away. In a low, trembling voice she says, "Rachel, please reconsider. Just this once, we can work something out later. I turn to face her for the first time tonight. Her expression holds genuine emotion, not the usual social performance, and I see fear in the lines around her eyes. Not just fear of the bill, but fear of losing me. This isn't about money, I say gently but firmly. It's about respect. I won't be used, not by family, not by anyone claiming that title. My words hit her like a slap, and I catch my reflection in the ornate mirror. The woman looking back stands tall, her eyes clear and certain, a reflection of who I am, perhaps for the first time in years. Tomorrow, I'll surround myself with people who value my ideas, who collaborate instead of manipulate, people who earn my trust with genuine respect rather than genetic ties, I add quietly. As I reach the door, my mother's hand catches my elbow. Please don't leave like this, she whispers, her voice softer than I've ever heard, her eyes searching mine for mercy. I cover her hand with mine, feeling the paper-thin skin of her advancing years. This pattern must end. I'm willing to talk, just you and me, when you're ready, but there need to be new rules. Respect, honesty, and no financial exploitation. She swallows hard and nods slightly. Call me when you're ready. I squeeze her hand once before letting go. I push through the heavy glass door of Belmont's into the cool night air, leaving behind the family drama, but also the ties that had bound me. Ahead lies an evening suddenly free of obligation, a future reclaimed one boundary at a time. The door remains open behind me, both literally and figuratively. Only those willing to meet me on equal ground will be welcome on the other side. My heels click against the asphalt as I stride toward my car. The night air feels crisp after the suffocating atmosphere inside. I hear the restaurant door slam behind me. Rachel. Lucas's voice bounces off parked cars, but I keep walking, key fob in hand, savoring the freedom just 20 steps away. Don't you dare walk away, he shouts, his footsteps quick and determined. You're not part of this family anymore. His words are meant to wound and halt me. 5 years ago they might have stopped me, but I slow my pace without turning. Look at me when I'm talking to you, I say, pivoting squarely. Lucas's face is a deep red under the parking lot's fluorescent light. Behind him, Brittany hustles to catch up, her designer heels clicking aggressively as several diners linger near the entrance, watching our unfolding drama. You ungrateful little. Lucas begins but cuts himself off, breathing hard. Who do you think you are? He demands. I answer evenly. I'm someone who just wanted a normal family dinner. My tone remains calm despite his escalating anger. Brittany reaches us, out of breath. This isn't about dinner, you know it, she says. My mother appears in the doorway of the restaurant, hesitating. I see indecision in her posture, torn between her daughter and her niece and nephew. Lucas runs his hand through his hair, a gesture that reminds me so much of my father that, for a moment, it disarms me. Then his expression shifts to calculated concern. Mom has medical bills she can't pay, he whispers urgently. We wouldn't have asked if it wasn't serious. I look past him to my mother, who cannot meet my eyes. The final piece clicks into place. This dinner wasn't just about an expensive bill. It was the prelude to a much larger financial request, one she had been orchestrating from the start. Brittany chimes in sweetly. Family helps family. I lower my voice so only those immediately nearby can hear. There are better ways to ask for help than manipulation. I continue. If Mom has medical issues, I'd want to know directly. My mother finally approaches, her ruby pendant catching the street light. It's just some tests, honey. Nothing to worry about. Insurance covers most of it. The betrayal stings worse than Lucas's anger. My mother was in on the scheme, using her health as a bargaining chip. I take a deep breath, weighing decades of family history against this moment. Mom, if you have real medical needs, we can discuss it privately. I'm willing to help with legitimate expenses. Lucas interjects. She can afford it. I lift my hand to cut him off. I wasn't talking to you. Brittany steps forward. We're all family here. Supporting family doesn't mean enabling bad behavior, I say firmly. Showing up tonight only to find out you plan to use me as your personal ATM isn't how family treats each other. Reaching into my purse, I pull out a business card and extend it to my mother. Call me tomorrow, just you, I tell her. Then I turn to Lucas and Brittany. Figure out your own bill tonight. I'm done. Brittany sputters. You can't be serious. I am, I reply. And if Mom wants to discuss her medical situation honestly, I'll consider helping. But I won't be manipulated again. As I turn to leave, the weight of their stares bears down on me. You think you're better than us now? Lucas shouts, his voice echoing in the parking lot. I pause, considering his words. Am I better because of my business success and financial independence? No, I'm just different and that's perfectly okay. The simple truth lands like a stone in still water. Lucas opens and closes his mouth in silence. Next to him, Brittany sinks onto a nearby bench, her carefully maintained facade completely shattered. All the energy she once put into appearances drains away. My mother stands frozen between us, her gaze shifting between Lucas, Brittany, and me. I see the silent calculation in her eyes. Choose between her daughter or her niece and nephews. A car pulls into the lot, its headlights briefly spotlighting our family drama. Rachel, please, my mother whispers, but she makes no move toward me. I nod once, accepting her choice without comment. I hold on to the number on my card as I walk to my car, not looking back. The sharp night air fills my lungs, and for the first time in years, I feel relieved and unburdened. Inside my car, I take one deep, steadying breath before turning the key in the ignition. As I drive away from Belmont's, I leave behind more than an unpaid dinner bill. I leave behind the weight of expectations I never agreed to carry. 3 months later, I stand by the window in my office, watching the city awaken beneath me. The morning light falls on a framed photo of me at 22, exhausted but determined, sitting at that old kitchen table that doubled as my first desk. I lightly touch the frame in silent acknowledgement of how far I've come. Rachel, Maya, my operations director, is here. Someone calls from the doorway. I follow her into our conference room, where 6 colleagues look to me with genuine respect, a stark contrast to that restaurant table. Let's begin, I say, and the meeting flows smoothly, with each person valuing the contributions of the others. No one speaks over anyone. No one belittles ideas. We build together brick by thoughtful brick. This isn't just a business I've built. It's a community. Later, during one of our monthly coffee meetings, Mom slides a cup across the table toward me. Sugar, right? She asks. I nod, noticing that her hands are steadier than they were a month ago. The bookstore hired me full-time, she says with a hint of pride. The manager liked how I reorganized the history section. That's great, Mom, I reply. After a pause, she adds, I've been meaning to thank you for not giving up on me that night. The memory of Belmont's flickers like a ghost, fading with each passing day. I'm learning where to invest my energy. Last week, Mom joined us for my birthday dinner. Not at some ostentatious restaurant, but at Eliza's backyard. Eliza, my friend from college, had strung lights across her patio and cooked my favorite lasagna. Mom brought homemade brownies and blended seamlessly into the evening, laughing at ORD's terrible jokes and listening to Kim's stories about our early business struggles. For the first time, I saw her without the shadow of Lucas and Brittany looming over her. Lucas took a job in Hartford, Mom mentioned casually during a walk in the park the following Sunday. A smaller salary but a lighter spirit. I nodded, not surprised. We've kept our distance, but through Mom I've heard snippets. Brittany's Instagram no longer screams luxury. It now features home-cooked meals and local hiking trails. Their fall was hard but necessary. Mom, she adds tentatively, when he's ready for an honest conversation, he knows how to reach me. I've come to accept that some relationships heal while others remain broken, and that's okay. That evening, the aroma of garlic and rosemary fills my kitchen as friends gather around. Mom arranges her homemade rolls in a basket, contributing rather than expecting. Eliza pours generously. We gather around my table. Not an expensive mahogany one, but a warm cherrywood table bearing the gentle scars of past dinners. Each mark tells a story. Laughter, tears, midnight brainstorming sessions, moments of genuine connection. Later, as Mom and I walk along the shoreline near my apartment, the sunset paints the water gold. When she stumbles on a rocky patch, I offer my arm without hesitation. I'm glad we found our way back to each other, she says softly. I help her navigate the uneven ground, supporting without carrying. Family isn't defined by who you're born to, I say, but by who you choose to be together.